Recently, I've been really struggling with my comic. I've just been finding it really difficult and was getting quite disheartened. I was able to take a break, and as my friend knitted and I drew for fun for the first time in ages, we got talking about hobbies, and I found myself thinking for a long while after about how hobbies can surely be a solace from the constant pressure to be productive. Essentially, the reason I made this video is because I was kind of inspired by the two events that took place. The first event was I was working on my comic and I really got stuck. I was feeling really negative about it. I've been really struggling with the fact that the pages I'm working on at the moment, because I tend to do a few pages at a time and take a break, because I do have to take a break, but even just finishing this section, it's already taken me almost twice as long as usual. It's been really challenging for various reasons, partly just because there's 3 human characters in it when normally there's a robot character, which makes it a little bit easier to draw. And there's just so many expressions and different things going on, and I'm very new to making comics and I've really thrown myself into it to try and learn, but sometimes the learning curve is just so steep, and it was just one of those days where I really got stuck and really was just done with it. I wanted the pages to be done and I was tired, and yeah. I'm not saying it's hard in the way that maybe, you know, being down the mines was, but it's very difficult in a mental way. It's very mentally draining and very hard in ways that are quite hard to explain, to be honest. But yeah, I was feeling pretty disheartened and stuck. And part of me still, though, was going, but I have to push through, I have to finish this, I have to keep going, get yourself together. And the idea of having a break was kind of almost impossible. I felt this urgency, I had to finish this, I had to keep going. And I think part of that was this pressure of productivity, especially because I don't make a living with my comic work. That's something that I have to apologise. I maybe phrased it quite misleadingly in a previous video, the one that got a lot of views, the one about alone time. I did a little intro for it and I said I work as a comic artist, which, fair enough, people probably assumed I therefore make a living off it. I actually don't at the moment. I would really like to, but at the moment I've been able to pursue this because I save a lot of money by living at home, and I have done for a very long time. Well, quite a long time. I've lived at home for about 7 years now, so I've saved a lot of money in that respect. I also had a job that I've saved money from. So while financially I'm not in a terrible situation, there's only so long I can probably keep doing this before I need to really reconsider what I'm doing. And equally, I really don't want to give up, and I'd like to devote as much time as possible to this until I have to give up some of that time, or all of it, heaven forbid. Yeah, I don't make a living on it, and I just want to be honest about that because I don't want to give like a romantic view of this kind of work, that it's so easy as someone who's never even made comics before to like immediately be selling loads of comics, because I'm not. Absolutely not. I don't make a lot of sales from my shop at all, which is part of the reason why I even started YouTube, because I hoped that it would draw my attention to my work and maybe give me a bit of extra income as well. Yeah, I'm just saying that to say that I think that pressure sometimes of I really want to make this sustainable, I really want to put this out into the world, and I want to gain interest in my work, and I want to get into comic making, all that pressure can make those difficult times 10 times harder, because you feel that pressure, you feel that urgency, and so your inability to get it done and to keep going just feels worse, way worse. And again, I think this links to generally the immense work culture that a lot of the societies we live in are based around. So this is actually the next day from when I took the footage that you've just seen, because I really struggled to get across the second part of this video, which was like inspired by the second event, as I called it. I don't know why I called it that, but essentially it was inspired by like taking that break, talking to my friend about hobbies, drawing for fun for the first time in quite a while, feeling that separation of drawing without that pressure for productivity, and playing a couple of board games, and also seeing sunlight for the first time in absolutely ages because we had some actual nice weather, sitting by the railway station and watching the train for a minute. That day and then also a day after where I really challenged myself to like really do nothing. Like I often have rest days where I don't get much done, but I was like, I'm really going to enjoy it today. I'm going to really, really just enjoy watching TV, just enjoy reading a bit of a book or having a nap. I had this brilliant nap. But yeah, and that kind of felt like almost an antidote to the way I'd been feeling, this pressure of productivity. And I've also been reading this book, 24/7, by Jonathan Crary. 24/7, Late Capitalism and the Ends of Sleep. I've only read a bit of it, but when I heard about it, I was like, that sounds really interesting, because I'm very interested in sleep. And yeah, I don't want to talk really in depth about this because I've only actually read a part of it so far. But because it was talking about sleep as this kind of thing that was a break from this work culture and from this productivity drive of capitalism and all this kind of thing, and how you can't get rid of it because it's so vital to our nature as human beings, it just got me thinking about like what other things feel like a break from that pressure and from these systems, I guess. And yeah, I ended up thinking about hobbies in that way, especially because of some things my friend said to me about, you know, sometimes feeling even guilty about her hobbies if they weren't like productive enough or good enough or interesting enough and things like that. So I was really struggling to actually explain it in the video, and I decided to actually write it down. I never normally do this, but like after I tried to film the video, I came up here. I'd already actually edited it mostly, but I came up and I wrote this at like 10 o'clock at night to try and get across what I was actually trying to say. I want to be clear, like I'm not an academic person. You might think like, wow, she reads one like slightly philosophical book and now she's going to try and be a philosopher. That's not what I'm trying to do. I almost nearly scrapped this video because I was like, why do I keep trying to talk about these things and I don't know if I know enough about these things to discuss it at all. But I'm just trying to, I don't know, I'm just trying to connect with people, I guess, and connect with issues outside of just art, and or like how art interlocks with all these issues itself. So yeah, I hope you get what I mean. Someone might. Somebody. I don't, but you might. So I'm going to read this and show some footage as well of the drawing and things like that. And yeah, hope it makes some sense. Story time. It's actually quite stressful reading something like this. Hobbies surely should be worlds away from work. They should be a solace from the constant drive of productivity that keeps a capitalist society afloat. They can be enjoyed without concern for things like skill level, output, or usefulness. Hobbies are some of the rare activities that prioritise our own interests and enjoyment over productivity, money, or some kind of progress. Hobbies often bring us closer to our genuine selves. For many, this may not be true of work, which often may not be aligned with them. And so hobbies can also be great gateways to community and friendship, as people connect on more honest common ground. Unfortunately, hobbies are not always immune to being affected by the pressure of productivity that dominates a lot of society. Or really, it's that we often struggle to escape that pressure and allow ourselves, and others, even small amounts of freedom from it. My friend tells me how she feels like she has failed somehow when she loses interest in a hobby, or how she feels proud and better when she's spent a day off knitting and cooking, but she's wasted a day when she simply watches TV or reads a romance novel. I again mention my slight frustration that while I enjoy and engage with watching TV in the same way many hobbyists do, it's often written off as a wasteful activity that I will look back on my life and regret having spent much time on. From the pressure to sustain a hobby and engage with them in the so-called right ways, to worries that our leisure activities and hobbies are not valuable enough, productive enough, or don't contribute clearly to self-improvement somehow, even the time that should be a break from the productivity obsession can still be soured by it. That's before we even consider how hobbies are commodified, as they try to convince us that hobbies would surely be best enjoyed with the right equipment, the right clothing, and so on.
Time spent on things you enjoy with no concern for a material gain or outcome goes against what capitalism stands for and against the messaging that work, and how well we can work, if at all, dictates a large part of our value as human beings. When we engage in hobbies, we are hopefully reminded instead of our own intrinsic value and of everyone else's. Perhaps many people seem particularly alive and content when engaging with hobbies because they are able to grow closer with themselves, know themselves better, and uncover strengths that a workplace may never value. In the face of an often uncaring and competitive world, we are also reminded of the valued places we can all take in a community that can be adapted to our strengths and differences, and the importance of time for recuperation, rest, self-discovery, mental well-being, and much more. Perhaps activities like this, or even a way to visit or even start to build a warmer world where time and energy spent on things like hobbies, our own interests and enjoyment, without any need for a typical productive outcome, would never be seen as a useless indulgence of time better spent on work, but a vital part of a more fulfilling life. The end. Did that make any sense whatsoever? At the end there I said like a warmer world. I obviously don't mean like temperature warm. I mean like a kinder world. Yeah, I would never normally write something like that. I try to make these videos quite spontaneous is maybe the word, and to talk more like face to face almost. But yeah, I was just really struggling to collect the thoughts on that one. So I hope you don't mind, but you know, we'll see. I'm a bit tired today, a bit weary, and even though I've said all that, I do still need to work on the comic. But yeah, it was all kind of just inspired by those two quite different experiences. And I think hobbies are one of the very important things in life that we need to cherish and hold on to in the face of the way the world currently is. I think I said it all really, which kind of, I don't want to kind of necessarily ramble on now about it because I think I tried to say it all there. So yeah, I hope this was of interest to you in some way. And yeah, what are your thoughts on hobbies, on productivity? I would like to do a piece on maybe sleep and talk about that book more. And yeah, I'd like to do some different pieces when I've had a bit of a break from my comic about different issues, which would be interesting. So yeah, I think that's the plan. Thank you so much for watching and for commenting, for all your ideas. I also saw a comment this morning about would I talk about why I want to make comics, why I'm interested in them. I would love to do a video like that, so I think that may be one of my next ones as well. So yeah, look out for that if you're interested. So yeah, thanks for watching and all the best. Goodbye.
Look at the sunlight coming in my window this morning. Isn't it lovely?
It is lovely.